Angel Gomes' contract at Lille expires at the end of the season, and so there's no wonder why Manchester United have reportedly taken an interest in bringing him back to the club. In possession, I think Gomes is not just good, but he has the capabilities to potentially be elite, and when I show you his FB Ref report as well as the analysis from his debut for England, I think you'll see why. The issue with Gomes is around his defensive and physical capabilities, and so I'll be weighing up Gomes overall to see if he's the right signing for United. With Eriksen surely being moved on in 2025, I think United need a midfield controller, someone who can play the role of a regista, aiding with ball progression and creativity from deep, and I'm going to be tactically breaking down how this would improve United's ability to break down deep, compact defensive units in the middle and final third. However, I think there may be a better option than Gomes, who according to Transfer Market may also be available on a free, and someone who I genuinely think could be as good as the likes of Pirlo and Xabi Alonso if used in the right tactical system. But before that, why do I rate Gomes so highly in possession? Well, before I show you his FB Ref report, let's first analyse his debut for England. So Gomes was playing in what you describe as a kind of regista role, dropping very deep in possession, sitting between the two centre-backs at times and creating a back three, but what was evident was how good he is at progressing the ball forward. He circulates the ball incredibly efficiently, as he does here with a cold pass around the presser into Grealish, but this next example really showcases Gomes' vision and passing. As he receives the ball between the two centre-backs, a less creative midfielder would probably opt for the simple pass out to Konsa, which does spread the play but still keeps the ball in front of the Finland defensive shape. However, Gomes on the other hand is able to use a disguise technique to thread a midfield splitting pass into the feet of Jack Grealish between the lines. Here, as he receives the ball in front of the Finnish midfield line, once again he's able to use a disguise technique to split the midfield and find Trent between the lines, taking the Finnish midfielder out of the game. Once again, he receives the ball in front of the midfield line and wastes no time in moving forward into the space before splitting the midfield again, finding a player in behind the midfield line. And he did this very well throughout the game, receiving the ball in front of the midfield, disguising his technique before playing a progressive pass into a player in behind the midfield, which is exactly the type of skill that United currently lack. Now, before I come on to his FB Ref report, the potentially world-class alternative and the tactical breakdown, if you want to pick up any of the new season jerseys, go over to Jersey FIFA. They've also got the retro club and international jerseys as well. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. So his FB Ref report backs up the eye test, as his passing section over the past 365 days, when compared against every other midfielder in Europe's top 5 leagues, shows a player who's not just a high volume passer, but also a very reliable retainer of the ball as well, whether this is via his short, medium or his long passes. He also ranks in the low 90th percentiles for his XG assisted, his expected assists and his passes into the penalty area, showing how creative he is in possession with his progressive passes and his passes into the final third not as high but still very impressive. In terms of his ball carrying and dribbling, it certainly isn't as good as his passing, but still better than what United currently have with Collier, Eriksen and Casemiro, ranking around the 65th to the 85th percentile for most of those metrics. Aerially, it's probably not a surprise, he is very weak, as the stats do show, but Gomes' main weakness comes defensively, with his size and lack of athleticism and physicality, often leading to him losing 1v1 duels in the centre of the pitch, and just not having the same tenacity or physicality as Mainu, and certainly nowhere near Agate, and the defensive section of his FB Ref report clearly shows that he's a low volume tackler and interceptor. Although saying this, Gomes certainly does cover ground a lot better than Eriksen, and he could function in a United midfield without being a liability defensively, but a midfield would have to be structured in a very specific way, and I'll break that down tactically in just a minute. But first, who is the alternative to Gomes that I was talking about at the start of the video? Well, it's someone you might have forgotten about, Marco Verratti. Now, I know what you're thinking, he's too old. Well, he actually isn't as old as you think. He's 31, 32 in November, and if you think back to the likes of Xabi Alonso and Andrea Pirlo, you could argue that they were actually in their peak in their early to mid 30s. With the same going for former Manchester United players Paul Scholes and Michael Carrick. Some people will say that we can't sign Verratti because Ineos only want to sign players under 25, but that's just one of the most naive transfer policies of all time. Just look at Chelsea. Yes, you want the majority of your signings and the squad to be under 25, but you need experience and most importantly elite level quality in the squad. I don't think people understand the issue with signing older players in their late 20s, early 30s is signing those players for big transfer fees that you aren't going to be able to recoup, and on a big salary package. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't sign a 31-year-old on say £200,000 a week. If it's a 1 or 2 year deal, that's fine. if they are a player whose quality matches that salary. The issue is signing players like Casemiro on 4-year deals on big salaries, but if they decline as Casemiro has, you've still got to pay them for another few seasons. We aren't going to win the league only signing young players, because young players under the age of 23-24 most likely aren't at their peak level, and so they aren't at the elite level. If you genuinely think United can challenge for the title next season with just Garnacho, Ahmad and either Xerxes and Højlund as the starters, you need to come back to reality. The reason that they are so highly rated is because of their potential, but if we judge them on current ability, even over the next season or so, none of them are going to be elite, and that's not a criticism, that's just reality. The issue is most of the fan base can't distinguish between potential and current ability. Martial had potential, Rashford as well, they didn't or haven't reached it. Yes, of course, Garnacho, Højlund and Ahmad as a front three looks incredibly exciting, but that's because of potential. At this moment in time, none of them are anywhere nearly elite level, let alone the world class level. If, and I will admit it is an if, Verratti comes to United at the same level that he was at PSG, considering he'd be available on a free, who else are you going to sign that's anywhere near as good as him in possession? I want to build a squad that's good enough to win the title, not a squad that looks good in a tweet where the fan base can get excited about how much potential we have. We're Manchester United, not Brighton. Garnacho, Ahmad and Højlund realistically shouldn't be starters for a title challenging side. They just aren't ready yet. See, someone like Ben Sheaf is a player I really like, but Verratti is just levels above, and he's so unique that other than Angel Gomes, off the top of my head I can't really think of anyone who can control and dictate a game like Verratti. Just quickly, I've also got a Patreon where you can read some of my articles, watch some unreleased videos, as well as get access to a Telegram group chat, so I'll leave that linked in the description. Verratti's FB ref report from his last Champions League campaign at PSG shows how good he is in possession, and even though some people may say that he's a liability defensively just like Gomes, it's just not the case, as the defensive section of his FB ref report shows that he's a substantially higher volume tackler than Gomes, and from watching him, his positioning, reading of the game, and tenacity in tackles, in my opinion, is all far better than Gomes is. And so both in and out of possession, Verratti would be superior to Gomes, but a question around Verratti would of course be the salary package that he would demand, as well as how 2 years in the Qatari League would have affected his ability. But I'll come on to that at the end of the video, but let's now move on to the tactical setup. And I think the system that would benefit both if either were signed would be a midfield diamond. But how would this work tactically? Well, for simplicity purposes, I'm just going to assume that Rashford stays and that we bring in a left-footed left back who could provide winger-like output from the flank, whilst also actually staying fit. As in the midfield diamond, I would set up with either Verratti or Gomes. I'm using Gomes in this example, but you can use Verratti as it would be the same role, playing that kind of regista role that we saw Pirlo play throughout his career at AC Milan, Juventus and with Italy, with two more industrious midfielders either side in Mainu and Ugarte, with Bruno Fernandes or Xerxes sitting at the point of the diamond, playing almost as a false nine, dropping off into deeper positions away from the two centre-backs, in behind a front two playing more as split strikers, who rather than dropping off and linking the play constantly, would instead provide the movement in behind the back line, making runs into the channels when the fullbacks push high up the pitch. In possession, in the build-up phase, the use of 4 men in central midfield would cause the opposition issues, particularly against the aggressive 4-2-4 pressing shape that we see a lot of sides use. See, when one of United's centre-backs receives a ball inside of his own box, the opposition's wide midfielder will be in a positional dilemma. Either sit wide and cut off the pass into the fullback and open up a passing lane between him and the centre forward into United's wide point of the diamond sitting ahead, or cut off that passing lane in behind and instead open up a passing lane from the centre-back out to the fullback in space on the flank. If one of the opposition's midfield double pivot drops to pick up Ugarte or Mainu in this slightly more advanced and wider position, then this gives United's centre-back the option of going back to Onana, for United to then look to play out of the box using a series of short passes, utilising Verratti's or Gomes' progressive passing and press resistance in this deeper position, whilst also having a 3v4 overload, with one of the opposition's central midfielders having dropped off into a deeper position. The split strikers should be positioned between the centre-backs and full-backs, making either reluctant to push out onto Mainu or Fernandes in this situation, and leaving them free in space behind the midfield for United to try to work the ball into their feet. But if the opposition tries to go man for man, this is where United can look to use the pace of the front two to exploit the space in the channels, via a direct pass forward either from the goalkeeper or centre-backs, looking to release Rashford or Højlund in 1v1s in the channels. And so this system would offer United a more methodical, possession-based approach to playing out of the final third, utilising either Verratti or Gomes in that regista role in the build-up phase, but also a more direct method in order to work the ball up the pitch at a much faster tempo and take advantage of the space the opposition has left. When United work the ball up the pitch and have possession in the middle third against a compact defensive unit, the role of Gomes or Verratti would be to sit deep behind the opposition's midfield line and sometimes dropping into the back three as well in order to receive the ball, dictate the tempo of play, but also progress the ball forward with midfield splitting passes or long switches of play, which both players are more than capable of doing. Now both would need some defensive protection alongside them, and so you would need Ugarte to play a Gattuso-like role, sitting close to either in the rest defence or even dropping into the back line if one of the back three in possession make a movement forward. But would I sign either Verratti or Angel Gomes? Well, if I had the chance to sign Verratti, I think I'd have to take it up. As long as his wage package is between £7 to £8 million a season, no more than that, potentially with a joint option of a third year as well, that would be a deal I would do. Angel Gomes I'd also look to bring in, purely because United need an Eriksen replacement. He'd be available on a free, would be on a low salary and wouldn't be starting every game, but he'd be that player like Eriksen that you can bring off the bench in order to try to break down a deep compact defensive unit when you need a goal in the second half. Now if you want me to cover any of these tactical points in greater detail, let me know in the comments section, where you can also find a link for my Patreon for articles, unreleased videos and a Telegram group chat. That will also be linked in the description as well.